Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Parlay Revival. After sailing 3,000 miles from Mexico to French Polynesia, we're having an absolute blast sailing around the Tuamotu Islands. But things get a little crazy this week as I push things to the limits by trying to take my 45-foot hurricane-damaged catamaran over a shallow reef into what is basically just a dinghy dock. I immediately regretted this decision. So I'm Colin, and this is the crew of Parlay Revival. From hurricane damaged to broken bulkheads and getting struck by lightning not once but twice to being the strongest and fastest Lagoon 450 on the planet. We are now sailing 5,000 miles from Mexico to New Zealand, my home, before continuing our circumnavigation. So subscribe to follow our journey around this beautiful planet. 20 years from now, you'll be more disappointed by the things you didn't do than by the things you did. So what are you waiting for? This is the pass at Rangiroa Atoll. It is renowned for having breaking waves either side of the pass and a brutal current ripping in and out depending on the tide.
Looks gnarly. We've not only got current now, we've got waves to deal with, I think, as well. There's a monohull waiting out the front. We've just put the drone up to get an aerial view of it. So let's see if we can creep in.
It has been hard to get accurate tide tables for the Tuamotus, and the currents are also dependent on swell coming into the atoll. So even though we were coming in at slack tide, the current was ripping out of the pass. We were met by some friendly dolphins who were acting as though they were guiding us into the pass.
So many dolphins. I've never seen that big of a pod of dolphins in my life.
Wow.
Look at, they're still all out here.
Well, that was pretty extreme. Coming through, it's so choppy where the wind meets the tide and the ocean currents. Now we're in the middle of the pass. We've got a 3-knot current against us, but I feel like I've got complete control of everything.
This was up there with the most current we had ever experienced coming into an atoll, and amongst all the excitement and trying to get the perfect shot, the drone battery ran flat and started automatically landing right where it was, and it was half a mile away, so we had no choice but to land it in the bushes. So we dropped the dinghy in, but time was of the essence as I was still holding Parlay against the current.
Let's go find this drone!
We're not even through the pass yet and we've struck our first land adventure. So we're looking for a gray drone and all the coral on this beach is gray. So this is gonna be fun. Oh my God, Katie found it. Holy crap. Woo! Yes!
Okay, we're gonna go check out Rangiroa a little bit. So we're gonna rent bikes, we got a skateboard. Who knows what's gonna happen, but we got Amanda, who's Vince's girlfriend, arriving at 2 o'clock today. So the quality and the quantity of the food on these Tuamotu Islands depends on these supply ships. And we've got one right here, but it could take all day for that thing to unload. I don't know how often they come here, but in Aratika, for example, they come once every 3 weeks. Oh God, you're not that coordinated. The biker gang. Yeah.
Woo!
He thinks everything's free around here. Hitching a ride, baby. Just got towed off by the cops. No towing.
This is how you do groceries in French Polynesia. Not gonna lie, it's kind of sketchy.
Not even halfway there.
This is the airport. This is where Amanda's flying in a couple of hours. It is hot.
We were lucky that the supply ship had just arrived that morning, so there was plenty of fresh fruit and vegetables for us to buy. In other atolls we had been to, the fresh produce literally gets sold out within minutes, but Rangiroa is the biggest atoll in the Tuamotus, so it was usually pretty well stocked. We also got 2 birds with 1 stone, as we were also able to meet our new crew member at the airport.
Hi, I'm Amanda from Bishop, California. I'm a Patreon to Parlay Revival channel. This is my second time on the boat. I was on the boat in Panama. We went through the canal with my boyfriend Vince, and he was just on for the Pacific crossing, and then I decided to come down for a month and hang out with them this summer.
So we now had a crew of 7, and we set sail inside the lagoon to go explore the southeastern corner, which we had heard amazing things about. But of course, good old Murphy's Law, it's never sunny when we need it to be.
Everything we want to do, places we want to go, they're going to be epic when we get there, but the elements make us work for it every time.
So we pounded our way through the atoll, with both Jamie and I looking out for bommies, in over 30 knots of wind and horrible visibility. If these were the conditions inside the lagoon, you can imagine how horrible it would have been outside the atoll.
So we've just come through all that bad weather. I think 42 knots was the highest that we've seen.
We made it! What a horrible freaking trip!
The sail down there was a total of 30 miles, and on arrival it was just as beautiful as everyone had described. This was the last atoll that we were doing in the Tuamotus, before heading over to Tahiti and the Society Islands, so we were absolutely making the most of it. You often hear sailors describe the Tuamotus as the most beautiful place on our planet, and it's hard to disagree with that on days like this. The underwater life here just hits a little different, especially in the crystal clear waters that we found everywhere we went. We also came across yet another shipwrecked sailboat, which may remind you of the episode we did 2 weeks ago about the time my dad ended up shipwrecked at Aratika Atoll.
We are leaving Tuamotus, and where are we heading? What's it called?
Makatea.
Where?
Makatea.
Makatea. It's an 80 miles, big cliffs.
Sweet.
No, you're selling it. Yeah.
Let's get out there. How deep is it? 29 feet deep. That's almost 10 meters. You can see everything on the bottom. Unbelievable. One these in.
Oh no, it's as big as me.
This is hot.
Okay, I'm gonna let this go.
Oh yeah. Pretty smooth sailing last night. Just ahead, still up. Ahead of us is Makatea Island. We've just been doing a bit of research this morning about it. This place is actually phenomenal. This used to be the most populated island in the whole of French Polynesia, and there was a big phosphate mine there. And with 3,500 people living here, there was a cinema, there was like railroads, there was like this full town. All of a sudden, everyone left and they went to Papeete in Tahiti. There's actually like the ruins of this whole village here. There's only 3 mooring balls, and there's one guy, his name is on Navionics. If you were coming here, you can look him up. I emailed him. He said unfortunately there's no mooring balls left, and there's only 3. So I'm not sure that we're even going to be able to stop here, which sucks. I'm hoping that we can talk to one of the boats and see if they're planning on leaving and we can hang out and figure something out. That's our only hope of getting on this island. This place looks insane. There's these huge cliffs coming down to a white sandy beach.
So Makatea was breathtakingly beautiful, and you can see why it is the dream destination for advanced rock climbers. But getting here is no easy task, and even if you get lucky enough to make it to Makatea, the surrounding seabed is all super deep coral, so there are no options to anchor. Only one of the 3 boats on moorings had anyone on it, and they said that they had no plans to leave, so it appeared that there was no option but for us to leave. But then I ended up actually getting a hold of Julian, the mooring manager, who said we were allowed to tie up at the tiny dock at my own risk, so I hopped into the dinghy to check it out.
It looks really shallow here, but the water's so clear that it's probably pretty deceiving. God, it looks so shallow, but it looks like 8 foot.
Really?
It's doable. There's 6 foot. And it was just, so yeah, 5.5 feet. We gotta go in now because it's high tide.
After much deliberation, I decided that it was indeed possible to get Parlay into the dock. The only alternative was to leave and sail straight to Tahiti, so I was willing to give it a go.
Now the wind picks up.
There is a fine line between a calculated risk and outright stupidity, and I was unsure of which side I was on as I approached the pass. This was, hands down, the craziest thing I'd ever done with Parlay. Tahiti was still over 100 miles away, so running aground here would be absolutely catastrophic. I'd measured that I would only have about a foot or so under the keels, and only a few feet either side of the boat between us and the live razor-sharp coral lining the pass.
Have you ever seen anything like this?
My heart was pounding, and a small surge shoved me into the cut, and there was absolutely no turning back at this point.
How's the heart rate?
High. Very high.
So I held my breath and increased RPM on both engines so that I would have more control over my rudders, and I beelined it for the dock.
I have 0 clues what I'm doing, but I'm going with it.
Thank you.
Good job.
Woo! We did it. That was sketchy. Now there's a surge in here, so we're gonna have to tie it quite hard up against the dock here.
We had made it, but there was a part of me that was so grateful that nothing had actually gone wrong.
There's a tide as well, so right now it's high tide. So we should come down another 2 feet.
Exhilarating.
Woo!
The same surge that had pushed me into the pass was also slamming us against the dock, to the point where the cleats seemed like they would rip out of the deck. So I made the quick decision to get out of there before anything bad happened. My adrenaline was still running high enough for me to kick Parlay's engines into gear and shoot out the pass without overthinking it too much.
It's a lot easier the second time round, so you know what you're dealing with.
We had gotten away with it this time, but I'll definitely think twice before attempting something like this again. Luckily, on our way out, the owners of one of the boats on the mooring returned to his boat and said we could raft up to him for the night, which was a much better option than getting slammed against the dock all night. So we were safely rafted up with our new friends in one of the coolest places we had ever taken a mooring, and our neighbour was actually from French Polynesia, so he invited Jamie and I out on a little excursion.
Our new boat neighbour has invited us to go spearfishing. He knows of a spot where he got wahoo last time. So I want to jump in with him and see if we can get some dinner. Yo!
So we burlied up and dropped a flasher down, which are shiny metallic objects on a line which literally flash light at the fish to attract them. On our second drop, a beautiful wahoo turned up, so Leo went down and shot him. I then went down and put him out of his misery. But it wasn't long before the sharks turned up for their share of our dinner.
Yeah, baby! Nice job, brother!
It was cool, it was hard work. Teamwork, so one of us had to hold the dinghy, the other one had the gun with the float line on it, and the other one had the one with the reel. And then these 2 sharks came, and Jamie didn't see them till the last minute, and they were coming in quick. And he let out this shriek that I will never forget for the rest of my life. It was just pure terror. It was like, ah!
They were coming in quick.
So because Makatea is so exposed, when the wind picked up a little later, our 2 catamarans started jerking and slamming against each other in the swell. So we never even got to step foot on Makatea, which is such a shame because of the rich history here that would have definitely been worth checking out. If any of you happen to stop here, you can get an island tour from Julian for about $50 per person, which includes a coconut crab lunch.
The other 2 moorings were taken. It's too rough to raft up with the catamaran. So here we are.
We've pretty much learnt to just go with the flow when things like this happen. As disappointing as it is, this is just part and parcel of the cruising lifestyle. We lose count of the number of times our plans change in a week, and one way that I'm able to be content with it all is to just accept that everything happens for a reason. Who knows what would have happened if we had stayed on that tiny dock, or if we had attempted to ride out the bumpy raft up last night. It just wasn't meant to be, and here we are, all safe, and having an incredible sail to Tahiti, where we were organising another Patreon meetup in a couple of weeks.
So we got in last night about 3 a.m. and all went to sleep, and we just woke up and we're in Tahiti. We made it. We just calculated 4,350 miles to get here from Mexico. So it's been one hell of a journey, but so cool to be here.
It's always so crazy waking up in a new place during the day when you haven't seen it before. It's so beautiful here, so lush here. So different than the Tuamotus, which we've been in for the last month and a bit.
We're also anchored right next to Venus, which is the yacht of Steve Jobs. Previously owned. I think his family still have it now. But yeah, different vibe out here. All of a sudden we're surrounded by big boats and lots of lights and lots of buildings and restaurants. We're doing a Patreon meetup again. You guys saw the one in Mexico. This one's a lot smaller, more intimate, but we've offered for one of them to stay on Parlay. So we've got a random number generator here. We've got 10 people that don't have accommodation sorted yet. Let's generate the number. Joel from New Zealand. He only just signed up yesterday and he's just won a spot on the boat. Oh my God. Joel!
G'day mate, how's it going?
You're not gonna believe it.
You're kidding me. You gotta be.
You only just signed up yesterday and you've won a spot on the boat, mate.
Oh, that is freaking awesome, man.
He's pretty happy. I'm pretty happy. He's such a good dude. Got to hang out with him a bit in Mexico, and just a solid, down-to-earth Kiwi bloke.
It's so cool to be able to do things like this for our patrons. After all, without them, I'd have to leave Parlay for months at a time to go work on super yachts instead of making these videos. So it's the least we can do as far as I'm concerned. Hope you had fun this episode, guys. Hit subscribe if you're new here, and we'll see you next Sunday.